What is going on, Busy Bariatrics? If you feel like you've been doing everything right, tracking your food, getting your workouts in, trying to stay consistent, and the scale still isn't moving, there's a good chance you're not actually stuck. You're just missing something you don't even realize you're doing. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had someone come to me and say, I swear I'm doing everything right, and within 5 minutes, we find the leak. It's little habits, it's the small decisions, it's the patterns they don't even notice anymore that are quietly keeping them exactly where they are. So today, we're bringing on someone who's really good at calling that out, because the difference between people who get results and the people who stay stuck isn't effort, it's execution. Today's guest is Ryan Kassim. Ryan is a coach who specializes in helping people break through plateaus and finally see results after spinning their wheels doing the same things over and over again. What I respect about Ryan is he doesn't just look at what you say you're doing, he looks at what you're actually doing. The habits, the patterns, the behaviors that you've learned to listen to me about that don't show up on paper, but show up in your results. And if you've ever felt like you're putting in effort without getting anything back, this is going to be the episode that hits a little bit different, because Ryan really gets to the root of that and does it in a way that just is so cool to listen to. Ryan, thank you so much for
Hey,
lasting through the
what an intro.
yeah,
Amazing.
thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
I always say, like, the first time I have people on, I always kind of give like this super long, like, here is the big glowing intro. And then if we
Yeah.
ever do an episode 2, I'll be like, guys, this is Ryan. Like, we're just like, I ice cold it. With
Yeah, really. Yeah.
I was
Chopped
like,
liver.
it might be in the show notes or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
you'll see him. Yeah, he's here.
But Ryan, it's so cool. I kind of want to share for listeners. I had no idea who Ryan was a couple months ago, and I was talking to a mutual friend, Jared Hamilton, about summer camp, and he is coming on to speak. And when I told him like the vision of what we do in summer camp, which is get, some of the top experts who really understand the mindset behind weight loss, but also the emotional and the mental and the holistic approach to weight loss, and like just bring them to help our clients thrive, he was like, you need to talk to Ryan Kassim. And I did not know you, Ryan. And as I'm calling you Ryan, by the way.
Hey, welcome to the family.
Ooh, I'm in, people.
Get comfy.
Yeah, we're good. But the
I
cool
think I
thing was,
called you Bobby.
I know,
I called you Roberto.
we went Roberto, which is good. It's going to be Ryan Berto on the
Hmm.
next episode. But the cool thing with Ryan is, like, when I look at your content, man, you just get it, and it's so realistic and practical. But for people who don't know who you are, can you give like a little bit of like how you got into this, why you're so passionate about it, and also why do you just understand human nature so?
That's a good question. I feel like I can give a lot of bit about
No
about
problem.
how I got into it. Let me just take over your podcast for a second. Thank you.
Cool.
But I essentially I got into fitness, nutrition through sports growing up. That was really my, we'll call it my gateway. And as I was going in high school, I had a really great mentor. His name was Carl Bodner. He was like this 65-year-old man at the time who would train me before I would do the football workouts, never charge me, kick my ass through all these workouts, teach me. He would give me peer-reviewed research on like nutrient timing and just like facts about nutrition to pair with what I was doing training-wise. And after all the workouts that he would kick my ass, he would hand me an orange and a Gatorade and be like, how's that for an old man workout? Right. So that was really like my intro into strength training, was introduced by kindness, by giving and education. And, I'm so grateful that that was my intro to it. And, throughout then, I pretty much, I went to college, I went to University of Rhode Island. I studied health promotion and I also studied health psychology. So I was always fascinated by the two. I loved strength training. I loved, nutrition and, taking care of my body, but I also loved the mental components and just learning about, psychology over the years. And I graduated college and I became a personal trainer because I couldn't get a job like in wellness coordinator for like corporate companies yet. And I fell in love with it. I love training people. I love seeing their results. The biggest thing for me was, instead of like this being just a normal story about strength and nutrition, was that for me, I hit a rock bottom mentally at one point, because I was in the best shape of my life, but I just felt internally broken. right? I was the type of person who my only tool for my mental health was bench pressing or squatting or lunging. And it never was, I didn't have any other tools to address my mental health. So it just hit me all at one point. I broke down. I remember I had a interaction in the gym with a gym member, and he just came up to me and he just said, "Hey, I could tell you're not doing it so well, and I just want you to know it's going to be okay." And just started breaking down crying in the middle of the gym, and that was really my realization that this facade that I was putting up, that I was the happy go lucky gym trainer who was in great shape, no worries here. And I could laugh my way out of any sort of emotion I was feeling. I just realized that that facade I put up was starting to have cracks in it. And it was that moment that got me to go back to therapy and really work on my mental health and develop my tool belt and work through some hard life things, work through grief, work through anxiety, that depression. And ultimately, after going to therapy, I realized like, hey, there's a reason why I can get my clients to lose weight and lose fat and get strong, but then they break down afterwards and they don't sustain it. So I was like, something's wrong here. So I took what I learned in therapy, like behavioral health, behavior change, and applied it to how I coached. And in doing so, I realized, wow, like there is a real need to have a holistic approach when it came to your health, your wellness, how you approach everything so that you don't just look good, but you can feel good and you can work through hard times. And hard times aren't what cause you to reset every Monday. It's what causes you to establish a floor and work from there and just keep your momentum and not feel like you have to restart every 2 months. So that's really kind of a little bit about my story. I've been doing this for over 12 years now. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
It's so important that you shared all that because I think, especially in the bariatric community, we do so much of what you said and where you ultimately found yourself. It's this idea of like, we are trying to do everything right. We are putting on this facade, not facade, but like we're putting on this strong face of all we have to do is eat super lean and clean. We have to get to our weight. We have to lift heavy. We have to look good. And so many times I see bariatric patients get to their lowest weight, and from an emotional, mental, spiritual self, they're at their all time lowest because they've only put so much of that in the back uh, that they don't realize that they have a balance. So, Ryan, you have this like amazing experience and you've been working for 12 years. When you see anyone who comes to you in that position, what's some of the first things you kind of have to adjust or work on with them to get them out of that spot? Because I know for so many of us, the idea of breaking down in the gym, we're close to that level, but we also don't know how to ask for help, or even when we do get someone like you in front of us, what to do. So tell me what we.
Yeah. I mean, so essentially, and I remember there's another part of your first question that I missed, and I'll go back to that after. But
It's
essentially what
okay
I,
because I ask like a 52-point question every time. And really, like what I teach my students during the day is like just answer the last part, and I don't even remember what I did for the intro. They're like, there's like 7 parts of this question.
there's a lot of open ended questions left over. I like to go through all of them.
And the last one's like, what you have for lunch today? It's like, oh, hot
Yes,
dog, and we're good.
from Costco.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, the first thing I like to do with clients is really establish the foundation. And I establish the foundation from one, approaching your nutrition and your workouts from a sustainable place. So that means that what I coach you to do today is what you're going to be doing. I always say like till the end of your days, right? So it's not something we do for a season. It's something I want you to just do the rest of your life, right? So that means that the workout program where you start where you're at. So based off your time that you have, based off your responsibilities, your expertise, injuries, anything like that. Start with a workout program that you can do, right? That you can do consistently. From a nutritional standpoint, I want you to eat as many calories as you can that still allows you to lose weight. Obviously, with certain bariatric like parameters that might look different for everybody, but like that's still our goal at the end of the day. How much can we eat that still allows us to lose weight? Because guess what? You're going to be more adherent with your diet when you approach it from that rather than how few calories can I eat. The other thing that we do is we establish minimums in my program. So I call it minimum mapping, which is essentially what is the minimum action you can do from a nutritional standpoint? What is the minimum action you can do from a movement standpoint? And what is the minimum action you can do from a mindset standpoint? And the reason I have my clients define minimums is because everybody always defines their ideals, right? They always define, and we do that too as probably business owners, stuff like that too. It's like we always define our ideals of like when I'm most motivated, I'll hit my 4 workouts this week and I'll get 8,000 steps and I'll hit my calories and protein and I'll do my meditation and journaling and all this stuff. It's like, cool. That's your most motivated self. I love that. I love that you're envisioning that,
The
right?
day, yeah, I almost think it's funny because the day you sign up is probably the worst day to ask those questions because your motivation from a
So high.
psychology standpoint, you're at an all-time high. So
Hmm.
it's funny when I review over all the client applications and clients who come in, like everyone says, I want to work out 5 days a week. And I'm like, it's like, okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's look at your schedule and see how do we accommodate that. But you're 100%
Hmm.
right in the like we're at an all-time high and we want to do that motivation. How do you kind of find that balance though between motivations here, realities kind of here? Where do you
Hmm.
find how do you find that happy medium?
Well, that's what we define what your standard would be. So here's what I have my clients do. We define your most motivated action. We define your standard, and then we define your minimum. And I define your minimum as like life abs. Am I allowed to swear on this podcast? I could
You
hold
can.
back.
Here's what I'll say. I
Go
always say
ahead.
as a teacher, I always say as a teacher, I will be like very Danny Tanner or Bob
Yeah.
Saget, if you know Full House.
Yep.
In person, I have no problem filling the swear jar, but I
He
will
is from
always,
Jersey.
yeah, yeah, you totally get it. I will say I always have to put content out in the sense of if my superintendent saw this,
Got it.
what would
Okay.
he say? So you do what you want, but like,
Okay. Cool.
I'm not offended at all.
Okay. So I'll be mindful of that too. But what I always say
Yeah,
is your minimum is when life just smacks you in the absolute face.
yeah,
Okay. So that's what I want. I really have my clients like paint that picture. I'm like, this is you when you have no motivation, when you maybe didn't get as much sleep, maybe your kids are being crazy this week, maybe you have a lot of responsibilities, like you're very overwhelmed. So like kind of just describing probably what majority of their month might look like, right? Or a good chunk of it so that we can then like once we put ourselves in that driver's seat and like repaint this picture because it's really just about adjusting expectations and say okay now from here define what your minimum action is, right? So instead of like having this ideal where it's 45 workouts, the standard might just be like 2 to 3 workouts, hit my calorie range, hit my protein range. Minimum might just be like, well, I'm just going to get 8,000 steps today, and that's great. My nutrition might be, well, I'm just going to hit my calorie goal today, right? Or even less than that, I'm just going to focus at protein at every meal. Okay. And then for mindset, it might just be like, well, I'm just going to focus on, I'm going to write down 3 things I'm grateful for today or say them out loud. Something that has such low resistance to do that, but if you do them, you maintain momentum because that's what this game is all about. It's not about relying on motivation or anything like that. It's how can I maintain momentum without feeling like I need to hit that reset button every Monday. Okay. So that's how I typically will guide my clients through it is like define your most motivated, define your standard and define your minimum. And when we have that written down and actually defined, there's no more guilt, there's no more shame that creeps in because I at least checked off my minimum actions that I know is going to keep me on track towards my goal.
I'm so happy, like 2 words that you said at the end of that answer, with
Hmm.
guilt and shame, because I think especially in the bariatric community, because for many of us, we've been obese our whole lives, or we've struggled with our weight, and we almost feel like when we get the surgery, there's almost this sense that we have to live a perfect life. And I see it so often is clients really come in, just like you said, like their motivation is all time high a month post op and they want to do everything right. They want to be perfect for their kids. They want to be perfect for everything. And it slowly spirals if they miss a workout or miss a meal or even just have bread at certain points,
Hmm.
cause this idea of guilt and shame. If you have someone who's like wrapped up in that, how do you start to like remove the guilt and shame from some?
I think it's really interesting. I think because I honestly think guilt is a good thing, which is maybe a hot take
No,
because
from a Philadelphian, a Catholic, and Irish and Italian, I will tell you, I
yeah.
don't know any other way. I really don't. Like,
Yeah. I look at guilt. I look at guilt as a compass. Okay. Guilt is something where, hey, I mean, think about when you're explaining to a kid, it's like you knew better, right? You knew better. Why are you doing this? Right? That's what guilt is. Guilt is, hey, you probably knew that you should have prepped your food the day before, or that like planned to know what you're going to have on a really busy day. So that didn't turn into you destroying only a bag of chips, becoming a cabinet goblin later on that night because you were ravenous. Like you probably should, that's what this guilt is feeling, because like, you know better, right? I look at shame as an identity crisis, right? Shame is like rust on a bike. Okay. And it just starts to spread, and slowly but surely it breaks the chain of your bike and you can't move anywhere. So shame is something that attacks you as the person, you as the identity. And when that happens, that's when we become paralyzed. That's when we retreat, right? Shame is all the should haves, would haves, right? It's all the isolation. Like shame loves to isolate you. It loves to make sure you're not going to reach out for help at all because you don't deserve this. You are not worthy of this. It's all the attacking the person, the identity, right? So that's the big difference between shame and guilt. Shame attacks the identity. It causes you to feel like you're not worthy, that like it's all your fault, like you don't deserve these things. While guilt is something where it's like, hey, you knew better here, right? Next time, do better. Right. So guilt is that compass. Shame is like that rust that just destroys you from the inside out.
it's so many like sound bites I love between like guilt is a compass, shame is an identity crisis. I feel like we need a sticker of like cabinet goblin. I have to tell you, I think for so many of us, like when you coach, I've never had a term for it. I like a pantry poltergeist or
Yeah.
cabinet goblin. Like
Right.
I love it, but I think a lot of the times, like that idea of shame and isolation is a big part because I think we see it is people start either their Instagram accounts for weight loss or even they start with a coach, and when the shame starts to set in, they post a little bit less. They do their check-ins less frequently. They start to like almost disassociate. Going back to like the ghost mention, even though it's a different analogy and metaphor we're working in, but I'm just going to go with it. How do you bring people back into the light if they're dealing with this level of like shame that is isolating them and causing them to disappear or shrug off?
Well, I think one thing is expect it to happen. I think it's sometimes because it's such a taboo thing, right? Or we portray it as taboo. It's like, no, like this happens to all of us at some point. Like it's not a you problem. You're not a special butterfly. We all feel shame at some point. We all retreat at some point. That's kind of maybe what most of us are preconditioned to do. The really important part is that, hey, one, expect it to happen. There's going to be a point where and you are going to retreat. You don't feel like talking to anybody. You don't feel like reaching out for help. That is the most important time that you could reach out for help. The ability to ask for help is the strongest thing that you could ever do. That's the first conversation I have with all of my clients, is expect it to happen, and that asking for help is the strongest thing that you could ever do. I think, and we put ourselves in those positions too. It's like anytime we felt extreme shame or anything like that, like the ability to be vulnerable is really what gets us out of that, right? To admit that we're struggling. Because admitting that you're struggling is like one of the hardest things to do. If you admit that you're struggling, then it just becomes a strategy, right? It's like, well, hey, now we know what we need to work on, right? Because you admitted that you're struggling, and now we can get down to the root of what you're struggling with. Is it mental health? Is it nutritional strategies? Is it your movement? Now we can get to the very root cause of it because you were strong enough to be vulnerable and ask for help. So I always just look at that approach from a client standpoint is, hey, we got to set the scene that this is going to happen. It's not an if. And when it does, reach out for help, ask for help, the strongest thing that you can do. And that's honestly like biggest thing that gets you out of a shame spiral. I would say myself.
Wow. I mean, guys, if you are not following Ryan or like, but like seriously though, because I think even from a coaching perspective, and why I'm so excited to have you in summer camp is I see a lot in the coaching space this idea of like being reactive to our clients' actions. And what Ryan is really explaining to everyone is good coaching, I truly do believe, is being proactive. It's not a question of if something's going to happen, it's when. But when we're in the situation, it's kind of tough to pull yourself out, but it is a little bit easier if when you're in a good mood, if you're calm, if you're not overwhelmed, already identifying what is it going to look like when you're overwhelmed? What are the minimum standards you talked about earlier? But also, what's the plan to move forward? And I just, it's cool.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I
I
didn't have a
think
better descriptor for it. I'm like, dude, like
cool
that.
is cool. Cool works for me. But I think the big thing too is that's why I think that's so important to have a mindset set approach when it comes to coaching too, because of that, right? Because I always tell my clients, I'm like, the act of losing weight is fairly simple, like the science behind it, right? The science behind losing weight is pretty cut and dry, right? It's what makes it so hard is when emotions get weaved in throughout the process, right? Because emotions are going to tell you that you're not making enough progress. Emotions are going to tell you that you need to pivot strategies every 2 days. Emotions are going to tell you that the food you just ate is bad and now you are bad because you ate that food. So that's why I approach it that way, because it's the act of losing weight and building muscle. It's fairly simple. It's down to a science. But what makes it so hard is the emotions and the mental part that get interweaved with it. It's like running a mile on pavement versus now we're running a mile on sand. It's the same distance, but one way is exponentially harder and it's going to burn a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it's so perfect. And I think a lot of the times, especially for bariatric patients, we almost get into this fallacy or an idea of like weight loss is like it is simple, but we're almost taught at an exceptional level because we're so restricted in our first year of eating that we can almost do whatever we want and we will lose weight despite of it because the science is relatively simple. If you are burning more calories than you are eating, you will lose weight. If you are eating more calories than you are burning, you will gain weight. And the problem I think in the bariatric community is for a lot of us, because the stomach and the procedure limit so much you can eat in that first year, you're not really working on the habits, patterns, behaviors to heal your relationship with food or even learn how to eat properly. And I'm a great example of that. Like I was eating 2 Whoppers a week and losing like 5 pounds a week and being like, this is awesome. I can do this all day. And I ended up almost increasing my fast food addiction over that first year because of those habits, patterns, behaviors. And then it gets tougher, like as you get a year out, because where so many people come into coaching, surgery gets you to so far, and then you start to plateau, and then you're like, I'll just go back to 800 calories and 5 hours of cardio, and I'll lose 5 pounds a week. Ryan, why is that probably not a good strategy? Or when someone comes to you in a plateau, how do you kind of help give them a realistic expectation of what's going on?
Well, I'll start with I can tell you why you keep going back to 800 calorie diets. It's because you conditioned your brain that this works. So when the brain is conditioned that this strategy works, it's now become the fallback. Okay. And like you were saying, in your experience too, when your typical way of, losing weight or anything like that, or as soon as you start to like try to get more flexible, maybe with your eating, and maybe you weren't as mindful of how much you're actually consuming, you start to panic. And when we start to panic, what happens? We go from a logical state to more emotional fight or flight state. What happens when we go to a fight or flight state? Well, now we're making decisions out of emotions now. Okay. And it's just like if you were to have an argument, our emotions are both high. We might say something and be like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Right. I'm just very emotional right now. Same thing when it comes to this is when we're in a very emotional state, frustration, anger, disappointment, shame, that is going to trigger you to get into an emotional state. And when we're in that emotional state, now the brain is not in the logical place anymore. So it's going to go back to what it was preconditioned to do, which is eat 800 calories because that's what worked. And that's like what your safe zone is, right? However, kind of like what you were alluding to, is like that is a very dangerous way to go about it. It's not a sustainable way to go about it. And it's ironically going to keep you stuck in that same sort of pattern that you've been trying to break out of. Now, if somebody's in a plateau has so many, I think that's one of those words that gets thrown around, and
100%.
it's, it's a trap word. I think it's a trap.
The trap.
But I think it's like a true plateau. What is a true plateau by definition? I would say it's like 4 weeks, no movement on the scale, no inches lost, no visible progress seen in your pictures. That's what I would define as a true plateau. I always tell my clients, I'm like, I want to put you inside the coach's brain for a second. Okay, let's put you inside my brain. If your weight does not change, this is what my coach's brain does first. It says, okay, we have two levers to pull. We either reduce calories or we increase movement. We don't want to do both at the same time. Not necessary. However, before I pull a lever, what I need to see is, are we doing our daily behaviors and eliminating as many variables as possible that we might be missing? Because, and I told all my clients this, because I don't want to take food off your plate. I don't want to make you go for 5,000 more steps. If it's something as simple as you're not tracking on the weekend, you're not weighing your food on the food scale, there's too many BLTs, the bites, licks, and tastes going on, we have more nighttime snacks, we're emotionally eating. I don't want to take food away from you if I don't have to. So, hey, how about this first? Can we check off a majority of these variables, or do we need to go back this week and really look at it and say, am I having more meals out to eat as well? Am I estimating more than I'm tracking, right? Is my accuracy going down? Like, where might be the behavioral issue that is causing this plateau? And then if we come back and they're like, yeah, I'm doing all that, great. We go back to how simple weight loss is. It is a calories in, calories out type of deal. What lever do we want to pull? What feels more sustainable for you? Do you want to have a little bit less food? Do you want to increase your movement a little bit? That's how I would approach a plateau, and that's how I would define a plateau.
There's just so much good there, and it's why I'm so happy to have you in summer camp. And you can drink any of your multiple beverages you have during this meeting.
Did I
Every
show them
time.
live yet?
Yeah, but actually, let's do a little bit of a fashion show here. So, Ryan,
Man, brother.
I made a
Wait, so ready?
drink.
I'll start from the bottom up.
What's in
Going.
the? I
So we
always
got
use
electrolyte drink. Found this at Costco. Great.
my
0 calorie
dog
drink at
love
Costco.
Joy Bears.
So good. We got Ghost Energy drink, which I'm just sipping on right now. And then we have a Spindrift. And then we have our zero sugar Fanta.
So many good things there.
Yeah, they're a good thing. A lot of flavors.
A lot of good ones though, and like
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't say it because I do work with Legion, but the Ghost Energy drinks is like
It's quite scrumptious.
I have one on Saturdays when I go to like the fancy gym when I have a little bit more time. Like my treat myself.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I won't tell Legion. Just between us.
But it's always good. But no, everything you said, that's what like myself, my two other coaches, Lisa and Kylie, when we look at a client's plateau, we kind of do look like about 4 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Which is cool, but it's everything that you just said is before we take food off the plate or increase that, because one will probably make you crankier, whether you will,
Yeah.
and the other one's going to probably push on your calendar a little bit more. Which, if you are a busy bariatric, traditionally you have a lot on your calendar already, and telling you do more is almost like counterproductive. It's almost like let's do better or let's see what the other variables are that we can put in. And that is so cool with it. Because like there's just such a good alignment there of like let's find the most efficient way for the people we want to serve.
Yeah. I think it's also our job as coaches is, how do we make this not suck more?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want this to, like, losing weight kind of sucks. Like, let's be honest. It's like, it's not really a fun time, right? You're intentionally having to eat a little bit less, and sometimes it messes with sleep. Sometimes it increases stress. It's not really a fun time. So I don't want to be the party pooper if I don't have to be the party pooper, right? So I'd rather change the party attender's behavior rather than be the party pooper myself and take food off the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important because teaching kids by day, it's like, does the average 16-year-old want to learn US history 1? Well, probably not. But if you make it enjoyable enough, they'll play along and they'll catch enough things. And I think in weight
Mm,
loss, the exact same thing. If the clients are seeing other people who are doing well, enjoying their lifestyle, finding simple recipes that
mm.
they enjoy and help, bring them in, all kind of helps make it a little bit more positive because nobody wants to be the party pooper, the Debbie Downer,
That's right.
especially during a cut.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing you talked about a little bit before, which I think is important, is this idea of like kind of changing it up so often. We call it like shiny object syndrome. The idea of like
Mm,
a squirrel goes across us with our puppy brains can sometimes be like, we see a vibration plate over there. We all need to do that.
yeah.
Or like, oh, like now we all need to do hit, or we all need to do high rocks, or we all need to do some other different thing. And I'm not knocking any of them, but it's like, how do we make sure we keep our blinders on or consistent while balancing like some variety or joy in our workouts?
Well, one, I mean, I think you agree with this. Like, so my background is, yes, I've been a trainer, nutrition coach my whole life, but also I did work in corporate wellness for about 7 or 8 years. And my whole job as a wellness coordinator was to just get people to move and be mindful of their health, right? Because you start working in those larger settings and you just find out in those populations, like most people aren't doing the bare minimum. So I'm always a proponent, and I believe you are too, of, like, any movement is good movement, right? So if we can find some movement that you enjoy, amazing. That's the coolest thing ever, right? Because now your health is immediately impacted. I think when it comes to this fitness industry and stuff like that, like it's very building muscle and losing fat is very overshadowed by like, hey, why are we actually doing this? Right? What is this all for? Okay. So that's like my baseline is like, hey, if you can find a movement that works for you, amazing. I also always tell my clients, I'm like, this stuff isn't sexy. It's not sexy. I'm trying to sell boring to you. Right? It's like, hey, good luck to me, right? I'm trying to sell you a very boring thing because boring is what works, right? When it comes to strength training and all these different things, it's like a workout program is essentially like if you look at like a well progressed workout program, it's essentially just like the same movements, but maybe slight changes to them, right? Whether it's how many reps you're doing, whether it's the weight you're using, whether it's the tempo, whether I'm telling you do a row, but now I'm telling you do a row laying down, like it's the same shit. It's like I'm not the inventor. I'm not Ronald McDonald here. Like it's just like it's the same old thing. So boring is actually the goal. I think that's not talked about enough when it comes to all this process. Like boring is the goal, right? Routine is the goal. Like this through the many years of strength training and building bone density and all that stuff, it's like the same old stuff works. We have all these things that pop up that like you talk about shiny new object syndrome and stuff like that. Cool. If it gets you going, if it gets you Randy, baby, a little Austin Powers reference, like if it gets you Randy, like I'm all for it, because now you're excited about training. Now you have maybe a goal that you didn't think was possible. But I do think from like if you want to get from like point A to point B, the boring strength training, getting your steps in, having similar staple meals on rotation, I think that is what gets you to A to B. And I think when we're in this mindset of I have this goal of weight loss and losing fat and building muscle, then we all kind of want to be on an efficient path from A to B that doesn't suck as much. And when we have too many shiny object stuff going on, now like A to B becomes like this, like
B,
it's like,
Q, X,
yeah,
B.
right. It's like trying to hike the Rocky Mountains. It's like you just turn like what should have been just like a walk down the park to like a massive hike. And I think that's the biggest difference.
God, so much good stuff in there. Like I always say, like boring is spelt with three P's in busy bariatrics. It's protein, produce, and progressive overload. And
Mm,
it's really that's the same as like our clients who figure it out. We do a lot of training of like you're doing the same exercises for a 3 or 4 day workout for a month consistently. And they're like, well, this is boring. And I have to be like, yeah, but like then the excitement has to come from like your Monday workout. You get a whole nother week to get better at it for next Monday.
Hmm.
Jump out of bed. But essentially, there's only so many ways you can train your biceps. There's only so many ways you can train your hamstrings or anything else. And it is the boring that almost accentuates the sexy of
Yeah.
you like swimming or you like marathon running or you do want to do high rocks or anything like that. I think that's great. If that's what gets you up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go move, that's the goal we're talking about. But we kind of have to put that boring in between those things so that it accelerates the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's also, what emotion would you rather experience? Would you rather experience boredom or constant frustration or disappointment because you chased after too many shiny objects rather than embracing the boredom? Right? Like what kind of pain would you rather endure? The boring, monotonous stuff, or the I don't know why I'm not losing weight, I'm broken path, which is the shiny object chasing syndrome. So that's also the alternative that we can paint here. It's like, yes, boring is not sexy and like, but at least the sexy results, but also like, if we only chase after shiny objects, then it only leads you to a dead end. And that's where we talked about shame, guilt, all those plays. That's where it all lives. So boring's cool.
Yeah, yeah. It really is. And I'm going to butcher the daylights out of this quote, but there's always one, and you'll probably clean it up and get it right on the first try. But it's the idea of like, until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, people won't change. And I think I hear that of like, until the frustration of starting over, ramming your head against the wall, gaining and losing that same 2.5 pounds every month, until you're finally willing to admit that that hurts worse than boredom, I don't think people are ready to make that change. But how do you get a client to like turn that corner? Because that's such a tricky part that, I scratched the little bit of hair I have left on my head.
Yeah. I think it's from the get go. It's going over, hey, we just went through all this stuff that you're in pain about, you're struggling with, your emotions, like how long you've been trying to lose weight for, like your history. And I think it's really just painting them like, if this is the road that we go down, it just leads to more of that. And I think we talk about someone who's pain threshold, like it takes a certain amount of pain to hit that threshold where you're just like, screw this, like something needs to change. It's the reminder that these are the actions that keep you stuck in such a painful place. And I think but it's also emphasizing like, people come to us because they've been doing the same, here's my first swear, they've been doing the same shit over and over again. And it's led them to wanting to finally change and find a system that works. And the system that works is the boring thing. It's the non-sexy thing. And I like what you said before, is like the boring stuff leads to the sexy stuff, right? Like the sexy stuff of, hey, finally being able to go up and down stairs without breathing heavy. The sexy stuff of those jeans that you used to be able to wear 15 years ago. Guess what? You can wear them again. And also kudos to you for still having those jeans in your closet. Those are now vintage jeans. Amazing. The boring stuff of the sexy results of, yeah, I can bend down and pick up my kids or my grandkids, or I don't have knee pain anymore. It's like, that's the sexy stuff that boring processes give us. And in my eyes, that's kind of what we're working towards. It's like, if I can just feel good, if I can be healthy, if I can, be present, and I can, this is the motto of my coaching program, but if I could live life sooner, right? Like how long do we want to keep with the same problems, the same frustrations, the same bullshit that you've been going through your whole life that has stopped you from living life? How long do we want to continue to waste time, right? Our goal is, can we just get you to live life sooner? Can we just get you to enjoy the moment now instead of trying to be in the next moment or beating yourself up for the last moment?
I think it's so awesome and cool with that because I think a lot of the times we see people, maybe it's at work or in social groups that we're in, where it's like maybe not necessarily your friendship circle because you have more say, around who you put into that, but sometimes like your workers are your coworkers are your coworkers. People in groups are people in groups, and you kind of have to ask, like, you hear the same complaining about the same ish every single week. What are you changing to make that happen? And I think that like gets lost a lot of, like, you come in and complain about the same three things every week. Are you willing to change it? Or are you willing to just accept that it is not going to change? And I think there's something to say for that. Like, I will be the first to say, and I hope my superintendent and principal aren't listening, like, there's no faculty meeting after school that I'm going to be like, man, I can't wait to do an extra hour at work. But there's something to say of, like, I accept that that is part of my job. If
Right.
once a month or twice a month I have to do an extra hour of work, I also don't let it bother me anymore, because there's nothing I can change about it. And I don't know, like, maybe people like, maybe it's wrong to think that. Like, there are some things out of our control, but like giving it the freedom of, like, it is what it is, sometimes allows us to focus on, well, what can we change? Or
Yeah.
how can we put the attitude in the right place?
I call that willful suffering,
Yeah.
right? So it's there's two ways you can suffer. There's you going about choosing the pain that leads you to staying overweight, the pain that leads you to forever yo-yo dieting, the pain of forever emotional eating. You could choose that. That is your choice. You know how you suffer that way. Or you could choose to do the thing that sucks in the moment but is beneficial in the long term. So it's your choice. It's your decision of how you want to suffer. And it's doing the BS things that you probably don't want to do in that moment, but is the thing that gets you to where you want to be. And I think that's just really important. And again, it is your choice at the end of the day. It's your decision. It's like, how do you want to suffer? And like you said, it's also looking at control what you can. Like, is this in my control? Is this not in my control? And if this isn't in my control, what about it is? And the acceptance that comes behind that, and also the resilience that needs to be built, and the willful suffering that also has to be a part of it.
I love the fact that like willful suffering comes up in a lot of this, but also resilience. So many times, like, we as coaches, people think they're signing up for nutrition and fitness. And although that is like what we start to do, I think building resilience is probably one of the like tougher parts of helping clients, but also the most rewarding. What's a technique that you do to help your clients build resilience in working with you?
Well, what I call it in my program is there's a self trust deficit when you start. So, this, I think there's honestly, I don't think most people's problem is motivation. I think it's self trust. So, I think there's a self trust epidemic going on. What I mean by that is when you say you're going to go for a walk and you don't do it, you are essentially depositing distrust with yourself. And in order to build resilience, in order to build self trust, it starts with follow through. So it starts with when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. The problem with most people is like resilience isn't built overnight. It's built over many, 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 many actions that you followed through. And now we have all this evidence to show that I can do hard shit.
Would you say it's boring building resilience?
I wouldn't say it's sexy, Roberto. I would not say it's sexy.
There we go, gang. We got the
but
full
I,
Roberto answer on it.
yeah, but I think it's badass to
Yeah.
build resilience. I think it's so badass. I think if we think of any of our favorite stories, our favorite characters in any movie, they're not people who've just had it handed to them. It's people who've had to go through hard shit and they come out on the other side and they're resilient as hell. And I think we lose sight of that with our own personal journeys, our own personal stories. And again, to go back to like how you can build resilience and how you can build self trust, it doesn't need to be a massive action. It doesn't need to be a massive action. It does not need to be a complete overhaul of your life. It needs to be something small. Like if you say you're going to start your day with a glass of water and you start your day with a glass of water, you have now built resilience because maybe your first go to was soda or something with a lot of sugar and a lot of calories that, now we switch to water and that helps with your overall goal of weight loss. Cool. Maybe it is saying yes to that soda or saying yes to that pastry, and that's progress for you. And now you've shown that you can have something in moderation and your life didn't crumble and you're building resilience that way. So resilience and self-trust starts with one follow through action at a time, right? It's similar to if, Roberta, you tell me you're going to come to my baseball game later and I'm at my game and you're not in the stands, right? You tell me, sorry, I missed that one. I'll come to the next one. Next game, you're not there. You're not in the stands, right? So now what do I do as like a relationship? I'm like, I can't trust this guy. This guy sucks. Like he's not coming to anything, right? So whenever he tells me he's coming, like I'll be like, okay, I'll roll my eyes, right? That's exactly what we're doing with ourselves, right? So now instead of another person, put up a mirror and it's you. Okay. It's you not showing up to that baseball game. It's you not doing what they'll say they'll do. So of course, whenever we're going through this weight loss process, like you don't believe yourself or you don't follow through because deep down you've trained your brain to say, whenever I say I'll do something, I know deep down I'm not going to follow through. Right. This is just temporary. Right. So we need to repair and rebuild self-trust to get you out of a self-trust deficit and get you into a self-trust surplus.
It's so cool. And it's funny because I get in a lot of trouble because I say what I'm going to do, but I also say what I'm not going to do. Like if I hear
Nice.
something, I'm like, you know what? Good for you. Not my bag. No way I'm committing to that.
Love
People
that.
get
East
offended.
Coast mentality, baby.
No, we're just so different. I know you've got a little bit of the San Diego love
Yeah.
on
Well,
you.
I'm from Connecticut
I
originally,
know,
so I'm
I
I'm a
know.
East Coaster.
But it's that like it's funny because the more I do things nationally and work with like
Mm,
national people, I
yeah.
realize I am quite South Jersey Philadelphian. And
Yeah.
the Northeast is very much like I'll hear something like, no, hard pass. Like, nope. And they'll be like, excuse me. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do this. It sounds like a lot of work and there's nothing in it for me.
Yeah.
And I don't really think this sounds interesting or fun. I'm good.
Yeah.
But like it's also like it is what it is. Like at least
Hmm.
people know if I say I will do this, I will be there
Hmm.
and I will show up, and it changes a different belief and mindset. Right. I know you have only 4 drinks available to you and you need to get to all of them.
Like,
I know. Like it's like you can't finish, gang, until we get
yeah.
finished.
I need a bigger desk.
That's always the danger. It's like you keep expanding the desk as opposed to committing to things. Worst clip we ever put on is you just power bombing
I
drinking.
need to get like a bong hose and just funnel these seltzer drinks.
We need the old '90s beer helmets
That's
where
what I'm
it's like you have
thinking.
the baseball helmet with the 2 cups
Yeah, with a
and the
straw.
straws. Yeah, that were never washed for 10 years. Um, I've never drank out of one of those. I've only
I
seen.
haven't either.
Yeah, I
We're both not that cool.
exactly. Who knows? Maybe it changes if we meet in person.
Yeah. Yeah.
If someone is stuck right now, or they're sitting here and they're like, "Man, this all resonates. Everything Rye said makes perfect sense. How do I start? What's your best advice for them, and how can they also connect with you?"
Mm. I want you to think of the smallest thing that you could do. I want you to think of the smallest thing that you can do. I don't care if we're sitting on this couch right now and you get up and down 5 times from that couch. Great, you just did 5 squats on your chair. I think the biggest thing is the paralysis of inaction, right? So if we aren't doing anything, hey, we know that doesn't serve anybody, but what's, again, it goes back to why I do that with my clients. What's the minimum you can do? What is the minimum you can do? Because we just need to start. That's it. We just need to start and think of it like a snowball. Okay. If you want to build Frosty, okay, you're trying to build Frosty Snowman here. It starts with a tiny snowflake. Okay. And we need to build that momentum. And that's how you get it going. So, one, it's okay. Hey, you're good. It's fine. What's something small we could do right now in this moment? Is it that glass of water right next to you? Drink it. Is it getting up from your couch 5 times today? Great. Is it going for that walk with your neighbor today? Amazing. Okay. Start something small because we just need to create momentum. We need to create evidence for your brain to say, oh, yeah, I did do that. I do have the potential to do this. Okay. Start small, but we just got to get the ball rolling here. and people can find me. Part 2 of your
He
question.
answered both parts of the question. So the history teacher in me is like, I'm scoring for both parts.
Yeah. And part 2 of that question, you can find me on Instagram at Body by Ryan Fitness. And I have my own podcast, which I'd love to have you on, Roberto. It's called These Little Moments Podcast.
I would be honored, and I'm going to leave links to both in the show notes. I have to tell you, I've listened to a couple episodes, and it's just a good time.
Yeah.
I hope you have. Well, there's a lot of learning, but it's kind of the way I teach the kids as well at school. Is like, let's just have a conversation and see where it goes, and get so much stuff, whether it be wearable devices and how much you trust Whoop information, but you craft it so well. It's because when you talk to Philly people, we're just easier to deal with.
Yeah.
Northeast comes off of, we're going to cover 15 topics in no particular order, and just where it goes. And it's like, no, there's good content, but you got to listen to it.
You gotta tune in. I might break out into song while talking about wearables, but that's just part of the dance.
It comes, but it also shows, like, I think, especially with fitness and nutrition and in our bariatric journey, so many people take it way too seriously, and it's just have some fun with it. So
hey, just let it rip here. Let's just have a good time. Yeah.
I always say those are the best ones. So
dude, 1000%.
On that note, gang, I'm going to give a super long outro to this.
Let's go.
But there are levels to that I have to read. This is the part where I read it in advance because I'm like,
I just like the deep breath you take before. You got to read it.
Yeah, I know it's going to be a lot, and I know I have to read because anytime I try to spitball off the cue cards on the intro or the outro, it never
Let's
goes.
See if I can finish all of my drinks while you're doing your outro.
Actually, let's go. Tell you what, I will even do it in a nice, like, Jared Hamilton slow TED Talk voice.
Wow. Okay.
Then maybe Jared can listen to the
tell me when.
All right. Are you ready? We're going to go. If you're watching on YouTube, guys, you missed.
I'm going to piss my pants after this.
I did during, so we're good. Okay. Ready, set, go. There's levels to this. Some people need help getting started. Some people need help simplifying. But at some point, you need to look at your habits, your patterns, and your behaviors honestly. That's where this work lives. And that's where most people either level up or stay stuck. Ryan is going to be a featured speaker inside Busy Bariatric Summer Camp, and he's going to help you actually identify where you're going in your way. Because most
what a professional I am.
I'm working here. Yeah, I know.
And Ryan's featured speaker chugging down these things. Sorry, go again.
Did you? Yeah, and he's going to help you actually identify where you're getting in your own way, because most people don't need more information. They need awareness and correction. If you've been spinning your wheels, this is exactly where you start fixing that. So if this episode hit, if you feel called out at any point, good. That means you finally saw something you've probably been avoiding, like finishing 4 drinks in a podcast. Now, the move isn't to feel bad about it. The move is to do something about it, like finish those 4 drinks, Ryan. Pick 1 drink from this episode and actually apply it. You are going between them. What is wrong with you? Because awareness without action is just another way to stay stuck. You're not uncoachable. You just haven't worked with me yet. And as always, keep getting busy. Ryan, did we finish it?
Empty, brother.
Let's go. All right, gang. Well, on that happy note, nailed it, and goodbye.